Every day, something dramatic happens in the Caribbean that affects our lives. We'll give you the details. We'll give you the facts on Caribbean Perspective with Eddie Frederick. Here's Eddie Frederick.
Welcome to Caribbean Perspective. So glad you can join us. The story that dominates in today's edition for Monday, 28th April 2025, and brought to you in association with our friends at Antillean Group. Today is election day in Trinidad and Tobago, one of the region's most stable democracies, where the race appears very tight between the two main parties. Details after this important message.
Believe in our strength, we'll stand by you. Protection from all, perils big and small. Reassurance we give, it's so clear to see. Peace of mind, that's our service guarantee. We look after all our family. Yes, we do at every opportunity.
Antillean Group, underwriters of all classes of insurance solutions for your protection and investment. Live well financially.
Welcome back. With the 2025 general election taking place today in Trinidad and Tobago, up to Friday last, political scientist Dr. Gani says that he stands by the Guardian Media election poll, but reminds all that last-minute shifts could still sway the final outcome. Dr. Gani was speaking on a recent episode of Agenda 41 with Keishan Haynes of CNC3 News.
Okay, welcome back to Agenda 41. I'm with the man who analyzes the news, but this week has been making the news. Professor Gani, welcome to the show. Listen, you're all over the papers. Everybody talking about you and the poll. Anything that you would have done, you've read all the criticisms, I'm sure. Anything you would have done differently, or are you standing 100% by the poll?
No, I stand by the poll. It's a methodology I've been using for 18 years. So, and perhaps many people don't know that, but started back in the days of CNMG with Julian Rogers in Campaign 41 in 2007, then with CNMG in 2010 and coming up. So it's not unusual to get all kinds of criticisms and whatever. I mean, I think the most comforting aspect was that the qualified pollsters like Nigel Henry and Vishnu Bisram and others have come out and said that the sample survey is fine and it's a snapshot in time of what has gone on. So the Express on Monday and the Guardian on Tuesday had those comments from those pollsters, and the politicians, I understand what will go on, and then you had some others who really not qualified in the field of polling.
As you said, the politicians, what I find interesting is that you have had the PNM and the UNC on the platform and saying, our internal polls say that they're winning, but there's no methodology to their polls. Who have they sampled? Who are they? And you also know that we learn in school when you're doing polling, if somebody's paying you to do a poll, you will tell them what they want to hear.
Well, that was not the case with Guardian Media. They retained me to do the poll, and I had full autonomy to do the poll the way that I wanted to do the poll, and I presented the data to them. I think that, on both sides, I mean, the Prime Minister in Moruga on Saturday night said a poll will be coming out and it'll be misinformation, and the leader of the opposition said on Saturday night in Las Lomas, she said,
it's a suppression poll.
Guardian Media will be putting out a suppression poll.
And she won.
So, I'm comforted by the fact that both sides don't like what it is, even if they didn't know what was coming out. And that's a very liberating thing.
Now, you did say that it's just a snapshot in time. So this was
a snapshot of the 10th to the 13th of April.
Anything could have changed. Do you wish you had more time to do another one?
No, it's a very demanding exercise. I mean, it's 4 days, and then you analyze data that has to be coded and so on, and you do it properly. Sample size was quite a large sample, and I mean that.
How do you get people to talk? Because people say, and we struggle to get people to give their opinions on anything. How do you have a secret that you get people to talk?
No, well, it's a random sample. Personal intercept survey, so you encounter people in their communities where they live, etc., and they field workers who've done this and they're trained in this and so on. They go and they ask the questions, and but the thing is, you have to know where you're going to send them, and that's what the formula is about, to determine by using marginality as the basis for sending them to areas that are considered marginal. You're more likely to encounter views that are mixed. If you send them to a stronghold constituency here, you're not going to be lopsided.
No, my question is the timing. When we do our polls, when they go do it in the middle of the day, a lot of people not home, so you get the guy in the bar, the person on the side of the street. What time did you do this?
Well, it's demarcated polling divisions, so that you go into actual areas, and then they go along streets and within the area, because the EBC has the boundaries for all polling divisions on their website, so you can get the actual boundaries for a polling division. So you make sure, and you brief your polling, the field gatherers, you got to stay inside of these areas. You may have like the polling station address, but sometimes
so a polling station at the time.
A polling station address may have 2 and 3 different polling divisions voting there. So you need to go inside the geographical area.
So you're not going by the bar. You're not going by the bar and just find whoever. Hey, listen, this happens sometimes. Listen, now everybody looks at this poll. What do you think the politicians, do you think they're going to just dismiss it, or do you think they're going to internalize it and make some changes in just a few days left that we have on this campaign?
Well, I think that all sides can get something from it. I mean, I think what they may say publicly is one thing, what may happen privately is something else. And I think that the fact that the sample size was fairly large in Trinidad and was in 11 constituencies that were considered by the formula to be marginal. 6 of those were held by the UNC and 5 of them held by the PNM. And I think that you have a fair basis for getting different...
I give you the final words. You willing to make a prediction?
No, I'm not making any prediction, because I know what can happen inside of 2 weeks. The poll would have been conducted within a 2-week
Listen,
frame.
If you don't get it exactly right, they crucify you anyway,
You get crucified
anyhow.
Getting crucified by people who are in front on either side, whether in Trinidad or in Tobago. So it's par for the course.
You're listening to Caribbean Perspective with Eddie Frederick, in association with our friends at
Antillian Group, underwriters of all classes of insurance solutions for your protection and investment. Live well financially.
Trinidad's Prime Minister Stuart Young has congratulated the trade unions that recently accepted the 5% wage increase, as he said it is in line with what the country can afford. More in this TTT News item.
Prime Minister Stuart Young has congratulated the trade unions that recently accepted the 5% wage increase. As he said, it is in line with what the country can afford. Speaking at a People's National Movement meeting in Sangre Grande on Thursday, he stressed that the 10 to 14% increase being sought by some unions would bankrupt the country. Mr. Young said the unions representing the police, defense force and teachers have already accepted the 5% offer.
Congratulate Amalgamated Trade Union for accepting the 5% for their workers after they already both accepted the 4%. I congratulate the Contractor and General Workers Trade Union for today signing an agreement for their workers outstanding since 2013.
Prime Minister Young shared that other unions have seen the importance in settling their outstanding negotiations, as he added that the Trinidad and Tobago Airline Pilots Association also signed a deal with CAL to accept a 4% wage increase.
Another union we met with quietly today signed with First Citizens Bank, a bank that makes hundreds of millions of dollars in net profit, hundreds of millions of net profit, so they could afford, you know what they signed at today? 5.5%. And that shows you that what the government is offering public servants is fair.
After nearly a year in the role, Justice Mario Michel steps down as acting Chief Justice of the OECS Court. Miriam Montoute reports on his reflections from his legal roots to his time in St. Lucian politics, as relayed by DBS News World.
Speaking with the DBS News World on Friday ahead of a special sitting to mark his retirement, Chief Justice Mario Michel says he did the best he could have, reflecting on his time at the bar, in Parliament and as a judge. When asked about the future of the ECSC, Michel says that it is a good institution. However, he hopes more will be done to promote the work of the court.
A program that I have started that I will certainly appeal to whoever succeeds me as Chief Justice to continue. Most people have very little idea about the court, how it functions, and so on. So that is an area I think going forward, the court needs to make a major improvement in terms of its public relations. In terms of the quality of its jurisprudence, I believe we have good judges, and the deliberations of the court from a legal standpoint are always solid.
Chief Registrar Michelle John Feebles expressed her gratitude to Michelle for his service. She says the legal fraternity is anxiously awaiting the announcement of a new Chief Justice.
This is an age-old tradition where when we have members of the bench and the bar who have served or given their service over the years, when they retire, when they leave, we usually have what we term a special sitting to bid farewell. And this year, our special sitting will be one that's hybrid, as we say.
Whilst he is retiring from the ECSC, the outgoing Chief Justice says he will be taking up consultancy work within his son's law firm. For the DBS News World, Miriam Montoute reporting.
The U.S. and the Bahamas are to get together to work out and resolve the Cuban labor issue. Colville Pyfram of ZNS News reports.
Charge d'affaires Kimberly Furnish holding firm on the U.S.'s position about the so-called Cuban Labor Export Program. The program, which has been under U.S. scrutiny, particularly its medical missions program, which the U.S. State Department alleges is a scheme to facilitate human trafficking and labor violations. The U.S. has threatened visa sanctions against officials from countries it deems complicit in this practice. This week, an alleged leak report from a U.S.-based human rights group reported that Cuban medical officials in the Bahamas received between 8 to 16% of the funds paid to them by the Bahamas government. The remainder allegedly goes to a Cuban state agency. This practice alone, the U.S. contends, is a violation of international law.
So our concern is with every country and just ensuring that laborers are paid fairly. That is our major concern.
Ajay, who spoke to reporters moments before meeting and briefly chatting with Prime Minister Philip Davis at an event at the Ranfurly Home for Children Friday afternoon, neither vindicated or implicated the Bahamas in this affair. Bahamian officials have long defended the Cuban medical export program, arguing it is a crucial component to the country's healthcare sector. The Prime Minister, meanwhile, again today distanced the country from any wrongdoing.
We understand what their concerns are, and we are talking with the Cuban government as well about those concerns, and we see that this will be resolved very quickly because we understand the concerns, and we too will be concerned when certain things are interpreted.
Furnish too seems desirous for a resolution.
I don't have any specific information. We're in a dialogue with the government about how, if in fact Cuban medical workers are here, how they're being paid, and we've provided some really rich information on how programs can continue fairly adhering to international norms.
Corvell Pyfram for the Bahamas Tonight.
Antigua and Barbuda's Prime Minister Gaston Brown and other Caribbean leaders are reiterating the value of citizenship by investment programs, describing them as a lifeline. The leaders made the comments on Day 3 of the Caribbean Investment Summit 2025. 3 other prime ministers from the OECS sub-region gathered in Antigua for a major regional summit being hosted by the Twin Island state. Jamie J. Roger of ABS News reports.
CIS 25 builds itself on 3 words: integrity, stability, sustainability. And inside its hall at the American University of Antigua, 4 OECS prime ministers and an attorney general said the very survival of their small island economies hangs on making those words more than a motto.
So our external partners, international partners who may see these programs as insignificant and corrupt programs, maybe in your eyes, but for us, they're a lifeline for our people, and they need to be maintained, they need to be sustained, they need to continue to grow and develop so they can continue to generate revenues to help us to advance the living standards of our people.
The governments of Dominica, Grenada, St. Lucia, and St. Kitts and Nevis also underscore how vital these programs are.
We have created a special fund that sits with Eastern Caribbean Central Bank. We have legislated into law that the government is mandated to transfer a certain percentage of the CIP funds into that fund, which is essentially a rainy day fund in the event of a natural disaster?
We have used our funds in many areas, from construction of hospitals to health centers. I mean, in one period of 2 years, we built about 12 health centers and one hospital. And of course, housing, and the housing that we build are given to our citizens in large measure at no cost to them.
Now, what CBI funds do in St. Kitts and Nevis is that they subsidize the cost of living. For example, the state subsidizes cooking gas, vehicle gas, electricity. We have a program called STEP, where persons who are unemployed are paid by the state to then work in the private sector.
The leaders promised CBI 2.0 with plans for a single OECS regulator, biometric vetting, and real-time compliance monitoring.
We want to maintain its integrity, we want to maintain its transparency, so the people can benefit from it.
The leaders say without CIP cash, some projects would still be on the drawing board or never drawn at all.
From debt relief to hurricane recovery, these leaders insist that citizenship by investment programs in the sub-region are here to stay, but under tougher, more unified rules. From AUA, I am James J. Roche reporting for ABS News.
I am Eddie Frederick. This has been Caribbean Perspective, a whole new approach to highlighting developments in the Caribbean. In the meantime, please follow us on Facebook and subscribe to our YouTube channel for daily regional news and more, in association with our friends at Antillian Group.
Believe in our strength, we'll stand by you. Protection from all perils, big and small. Reassurance we give, it's so clear to see. Peace of mind, that's our service guarantee. We look after all our family. Yes, we do at every opportunity.
Antillian Group, underwriters of all classes of insurance solutions for your protection and investment. Live well financially.